£1,000. So faced with that cost, a lot of people who might otherwise come to the market won't come. They simply won't bring their properties forward. The industry reckons that this could amount to 30% of the supply side. Now, if you remove 30% of the supply from the market, there's only one thing that's going to happen. Prices are going to go through the roof.
And talking of expense, the estimated £635 it's going to cost sellers to put these packs together doesn't include VAT. And if you put your home on the market without one, you could face a fine of £200. So sellers like me really will be taking a financial hit.
Right, I'm ready for my home condition report now, and what's going to be interesting is to see how detailed it's going to be, because at the moment, under the current system, what most people have done is something called a mortgage valuation. And that's pretty basic. I mean, in motoring terms, it's like kicking the car's tyres. You don't even look under the bonnet. A home condition report, on the other hand, apparently, is quite a different matter.
Sean Steer is the man who's going to write mine. A registered chartered surveyor of 20 years, he certainly knows his houses.
I think it's clay here, so we'll be looking at the tree just to see if there's any movement to that front corner of the building. I'd be asking the owner if that's a recent repair or one that's been there for a number of years, which could cause some water penetration, basically. There's a bit of hairline cracking on this wall, but I'm not too concerned about it. There's actually a lot of work, money been spent on this building, believe it or not. The outside's all been repointed as well, so... This window's actually in better condition than the other one, isn't it? Cool, I said that. That sort of tells us there's been a roof leak in the past, or there might still be one. I don't think there is ongoing.
How will they differ from the average survey that you do at the moment?
It'll be jargon-free, consumer-friendly. Any defects really will be categorised, which is a new thing that hasn't been in the industry at all.
And what are the categories?
The categories are 1, 2 and 3. Good, bad and ugly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, am I good, bad or ugly?
You're good on the inside and a bit ugly on the outside, actually.
Really? Like what?
Well, the windows. This window is one example. It's not good. It wouldn't be a 1. Even though the actual window itself, obviously been replaced at some stage.
Yeah.
But it does have a missing cord, so it probably won't slide properly.
Would that make it a bad or an ugly?
It's not a 3. There's a crack in this glass here, but It's not bad enough that the glass would fall out. If the outside was
So it's a needs attention?
Yes, it's a 2, really. It would fall, if it was to fall and endanger someone below, it'd have to be a 3.
Sean may know his stuff, but under the new law, he's going to have to pay to retrain as a government inspector. In fact, anyone, no matter how well qualified, will need that accreditation if they're to compile home information packs. Around 7,500 such inspectors will be needed when the packs become compulsory next summer. But so far, just 2,500 have signed up. And that's leading some property experts to predict housing market chaos.
Let's take me, for example. This is my flat. Currently, it's not for sale, but let's say a flat 3 streets down comes up for sale that's a bit bigger, and I think, I really want that one, and I can afford to move. I have to get a home condition report done on this property. If there aren't enough home condition inspectors available, I'm going to have to wait, and someone else is going to buy that property. It's going to slow the market down and stagnate it.
You mean fewer people are going to put their houses on the market?
Well, fewer people are going to put their houses on the market because it's going to cost them money. Some people are going to think about putting their houses on the market, and when they take a look at their home condition report, they're going to say, actually, no.
And there's more. The government say the new system simply moves cost from the buyer to the seller. But currently, the only survey 80% of buyers get is a mortgage valuation. And as the home condition report doesn't actually include one of those, buyers still might end up paying for one.
The number one problem is that the mortgage companies are not going to accept the survey of the seller. And this is quite understandable because the mortgage companies have to be responsible for the money they give. And therefore, they want to see that information that they've commissioned is correct.
How do you know? Have you asked them?
I have asked them, and the answer is they're not going to accept these surveys. So far, the government has not managed to persuade a single mortgage company to sign up to this.
What about this two-survey worry, that the HIP is going to require a survey to be done for the seller, but also for the buyer? So far from kind of reducing the time and the expense, it actually could increase it because we might need 2 surveys in the future.
Well, we don't think that's the way it'll work, and that's not the advice that we've got from Consumers Association and also from a lot of organisations that have worked in this. And even the mortgage lenders are starting to tell us that no, they think the majority of cases they won't be asking for an additional survey to be done.
You say the majority of cases, so in a lot of cases there will be extra expense, there will be 2 surveys.
Well, if you think that this is actually a way of cutting the expense for all of those sales that fall through. At the moment, if you go try and buy a house, you pay for all the searches, the valuations and everything, and then it falls through, the next buyer is going to be paying for all of the same information again. That's a huge waste. It's a crazy way to run a system.
But despite ministers' confidence, the organisation representing mortgage companies has made it clear that the new packs won't be good enough for them. Before lending money, they'll still want to carry out their own valuation, paid for by the buyer.
They were never designed to give lenders what they need, which is a valuation of the property, so that if they had to repossess, they could get the money back. What's important for the lender is to make sure that the property valuation isn't simply what the estate agent has marketed, or isn't simply what the individual consumer is prepared to pay. It's what the market actually is going to be if they had to take the possession. And that means they need a valuer to help them with that market assessment.
Despite the growing criticism, the government is determined to press ahead with the new Home Information Packs, or HIPs. Its new system will be based on a voluntary pilot scheme that ran in Bristol for 6 months, a scheme that has the full support of this local estate agent.
Consumers want the best price for their house in the quickest time and the confidence that the deal is going to go through, that it isn't going to fall through. That's the stress that comes in when everybody thinks they have sold. We still, in this voluntary system, offer our vendors the choice. Do they want to go down the traditional route, or do they want to go down this new improved route with the home condition report? And it might surprise you to know that after 10 years of seeing the benefits and being able to prove the benefits to the consumer, that 96 to 97% of my sellers choose this route.
One seller who did choose the new route was Darren Hughes. His house, built in the 1930s, had structural problems. And when these were detected in surveys, 2 potential buyers pulled out. Fed up with the waste of time and money, he decided to provide a home information pack.
When I actually gave buyers the information pack once they completed their first viewing, it was one of surprise, because for a lot of people, they haven't even heard of these sellers' information pack, and they were initially thinking, well, what's this? But obviously, when you could actually talk through them with the estate agent, that it consists of all the local searches, land registry, you know, a home builder's buyer survey of your property, showing the condition of the property itself, which, let's face it, it's a 1930s house. It's an older property with no guarantees. I think it was quite refreshing for those people to actually see it, and for a seller to be seen to be so honest and upfront.
Within weeks, Darren had another offer, and this time the sale went through. It's this type of result which has convinced Darren and his estate agent Maria that the packs work.
All I can tell you is factual information that I have. When I started selling houses without packs, my fall-through rate was 26%. My fall-through rate now is 1.6.
Others, though, are unconvinced about the Bristol scheme's success.
The pack that was trialled in Bristol was put into 189 different properties. So it wasn't really a very wide test of what this thing could do. Secondly, the pack was free, and in many cases they couldn't even give it away because people didn't want to know. So it was not a trial in strict terms of the pack. It was what the government called a pilot, which was a bit of a get-out.
With the countdown to home information packs now well underway, the government is preparing to spend around £5 million explaining how the new law will work. But embarrassingly, the woman they approached to be the face of their advertising campaign has now turned out to be one of the scheme's most vocal critics.
This home information pack increases the cost, increases the time frame, and I think is going to muddle the buyer and make the whole process a great deal more difficult than it currently is. And as we know, it's currently not a walk in the park. Your average punter doesn't see that many surveys in their lifetime. And the idea of them seeing a survey before they've even seen the property, they're going to be put off over viewing those properties. Surveyors are very conservative, and surveys are conservative documents, and often scary.
The Council of Mortgage Lenders, the National Association of Estate Agents, the Law Society, all of them are worried about this scheme and are broadly against it. Doesn't that set the alarm bells ringing a little bit?
Well, I think that It's right that a lot of the organisations and institutions that make money out of the current system have opposed changes to it. But, you know, look at it from the point of view of buyers and sellers who have real frustrations with the current system, can spend a lot of money again and again, and the Consumers Association, which stands up for them, has been calling for these changes for a long time. I think it's time they were brought in.
But are the critics right? A few days after Sean the surveyor's visit, my very own home information pack arrived. Among the problem areas were broken and missing roof tiles, cracked windows and problems with the water tanks. But most disappointingly, the report highlighted woodworm in the cellar. It was the one problem that was given the worst rating of 3. But would the buyers mind? We enlisted the help of local estate agent Steve Smith, who, armed with my new hip, invited prospective first-time buyers Tom and Rebecca and Stephen and Holly to view the flat.
While we're here, if I can just point out to you that there's access to the loft here, and that actually mentions in the pack that the support for the water tanks needs improving. Just point out while we're in this room, if I may, something that came up on the pack, the cracked window there.
Yeah. And how much would that cost to replace?
We can obviously get you a quote, but I would think it'd be in the region of £50.
I like the flat, I like the layout of it and the decoration, but definitely from reading that pack, we've become a bit dubious about whether to put an offer on it or not, just because there was a list of things that would need doing, and I just don't think that we can stretch to it on our budget.
Well, that's a bit of a blow. Let's hope the second couple feel differently.
The flat was a really, really nice place. It's open, it's airy, it's light, and it lived up to what the pack said as well. I mean, the problems that I was looking for that I'd read in here, I found pretty much straight away. I was shown them by the estate agent as well. And yeah, it's a really nice place. It's definitely something I consider as a first-time buyer.
So, I've got a dodgy hip, so to speak, and it's cost me at least one sale. That's because it's scared people off, effectively, by highlighting problems right from the start. Now, usually, of course, those problems would have emerged further on down the line, and because they're relatively minor, i.e. woodworm in the basement, by that stage, the buyers probably wouldn't have minded. So maybe the critics are right, and all HIPs are going to do is basically put the kibosh on a load of sales that would otherwise have gone through. Just to kind of give HIPs a run out, we did a HIP on my flat in East Dulwich, and some people came round, potential buyers, quite keen, and then they saw my dodgy hip, so to speak, and one of them pulled out. I lost the sale. Now, aren't you worried that that might be replicated on a much wider scale? And the problem with my flat was that actually it was only woodworm in the basement. It's a relatively minor thing.
But don't you think the buyers should have had that information in order to make that choice? I mean, if they are not worried about woodworm in the basement, then they can make that decision. If they are, they can also make that decision. It's up to them. I mean, I think the real issue here is first-time buyers in particular who've never bought a home before, you know, often have to pay huge amounts of money, get a whole load of information at the last minute. Far better that they should have proper information at the beginning and that can make a fair decision because of that.
Put like that, it's hard to argue with. Buyers face enough problems without having to pay to discover more. But as we've heard, the overall effect of home information packs could be to push up prices generally, thereby wiping out any savings. It's estimated that HIPs will cost sellers £840 million a year, with additional VAT from the packs coming to an impressive £147 million. So Gordon Brown, at least, will be pleased.
The government are going to win in the additional revenue, and surveyors are going to win. The losers are going to be everybody who owns a property in the UK. At the moment, it's divorce, debt and death which keeps our market going, and then happy things like marriage, babies, etc. That's why the market turns over and we continue buying and selling properties. But there's also an element of spontaneity, of people just deciding that they want to live on the other side of town. If it's going to cost them to move, they're going to think twice.
Jonathan Maitland reporting. And that's nearly all we have time for this evening. Coming up on Friday, Hard to Swallow. Fiona Foster investigates the convenience food ingredient that's been linked to heart disease, strokes, diabetes and Alzheimer's. It's said to cause more than 300 deaths every week, And the chances are you've eaten it today.
Many people are getting a bigger risk from trans fat than from saturated fat as far as heart attack and stroke is concerned. It is wholly avoidable, and that is why a ban is necessary.
You can see that report on Friday night at 8 o'clock. Until then, from all of us here, goodbye and thank you for joining us.
As Eileen makes a decision about her love life, so does Fred. It's all happening in Weatherfield next tonight. Then at 9, could Colin and Howie be further apart than ever? Crunch time for the best friends in the last in the series of Northern Lights with